Viva Las Vegas! In today's episode, I'm breaking down this year's Design and Construction Week in Las Vegas. So, side note, Design and Construction Week is a mashup of the International Builder Show and the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show put on by the National Association of Home Builders and the National Kitchen and Bath Association. Megan and I discuss my big takeaways and major trends. Not to spoil the whole episode, but I was so happy to see all the color everywhere. So before I give it all away in the intro, let's get into it. You're listening to the We Need to Talk podcast, and we are your hosts, Salem Shannon and Megan Beaver.
Two millennial moms, ambitious professionals, an interior designer, and a business executive.
Join us for conversations that unravel all the things that not only hold us together, but sometimes fall apart.
If you're looking to laugh, cry, and be inspired, all while keeping it real,
you're in the right place. Grab your drink. We need to talk.
Salem, you're finally back from Vegas.
Yes, finally back. Well, and I'm finally digging myself out of the huge pile of laundry that was waiting for me when I got back.
Yeah. Well, those are waiting on me weekly. I don't even have to leave the state for that. Are you finally back on our time zone, East Coast, and feeling alive?
Feeling alive might be a stretch, just in this phase of life. But yeah, Monday and Tuesday were a little bit of a struggle, but I'm back. Feel good.
Cool. Well, why were you in Vegas? I feel like it's a pretty big deal.
It is very fun, and I kind of think it's a big deal. But I was at the International Builder Show, Design and Construction Week, which is really, maybe I should have started with that. I was in Vegas for Design and Construction Week, which is a collaborative sort of show between the International Builder Show and the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show. And so those are two separate shows that are put on by two separate organizations. So the International Builder Show is put on by the National Association of Home Builders, and the Kitchen and Bath Show is put on by NKBA, or the National Kitchen and Bath Association. It's like so many alliterations, but anyway. KBIS is put on by NKBA, and IBS, which is the worst name. Like, couldn't they have picked something else? IBS is put on by NAHB.
Great. Awesome. I watched a lot of your Instagram stories and stuff and saw tons of just inspirational but beautiful designs and everything that a dream home would have, but depending on your style you would pick. Kind of talk to me about what your major takeaways were from it, coming back and knowing you're in the industry.
So what's really funny is I ran into a woman that I took a class with before I even got fully into this industry. She and I had signed up for a class. This is kind of like a roundabout story, but she and I had taken a class at CVCC for graphic design. It was the tail end of 2020, and we were both in these graphic design type classes. They were mini courses on how to use Adobe products, like Illustrator, InDesign, stuff like that. And so we were in these classes. They were at night. Neither of us had kids at the time. I don't know. Anyway, I ran into her yesterday at Home Goods, and I was talking to her about it. And so, the funny thing is about these trade shows, they are going to be designed to kind of be over the top and to the max, to show you all the some of the most extravagant possibilities, right? And then when you you take that in and you digest that and you're thinking, okay, how can I apply some of this back into my day to day or my designs? A lot of what I do, while yes, it is beautiful, these are the projects that I work on, they are major investments in people's homes. And so sometimes there's a tendency to play it safe because you want to choose like you want classic selections because of that huge investment. People aren't redesigning their
Risky.
kitchen and their bath every single year, like in to be on trend with the trade show. And so her and I had this nice conversation about that and how interesting it is. So it's like at the trade show, I'm there to, of course, take it all in and see what the latest trends are coming from all of these different people in the industry. There aren't necessarily like designers with booths there. These are exhibitors that sell, countertops, cabinets, tile, things like that. And that's a big portion of the show. And then there's other portions of the show where people are selling like parts and pieces that you use in construction. Everything from windows and doors to like decking material, lumber, innovative technologies when it comes to like fastening. So like Simpson Strong Ties, like the brand when it comes to fasteners in anything related to construction. And
Mm.
so you have huge demos where they've got this new tool that attaches to a drill that lets you drill in deck boards faster. Okay, so you've got a big mix of things that you're going to see at this show, and you're trying to go through and wade through and think, okay, what can I take back, and what could I use? And so my boss actually went with me to the show. He is, of course, looking at all of those tools. He's like, okay, what could make us more efficient? What are some of these good, these new innovative things that we could actually use and take back? So that's what he was looking at, and then of course I was looking at the prettier things,
Yeah.
the tile, the countertops, what's on trend. Also, a huge portion of the show is appliances. If you were looking for new appliances, like it would honestly probably be valuable to go to the show
Mm.
because all of the brands are there, all of them, and they're showing all of their lines.
The whole
Um,
portfolio, essentially.
Yeah, yeah, and they're introducing all their new technologies too. So from an appliance standpoint, I didn't spend a lot of time there because we don't include appliance packages with our work, mainly because there's just not much of a markup that we can put on that, and it it just makes more sense to refer people to our preferred appliance vendor.
Well, and because everybody wants something different. I think
Hmm.
a lot of builders don't include those unless it's very much like the standard package or like a standard build. Um,
Right.
but like I would much prefer. I've had both ways, and I would much prefer to pick my appliances. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for us to, and we're not at all interested in becoming like a dealer for appliances. So
yeah.
we don't really get involved. So I was just looking at everything from a purely visual standpoint when it came to those. Um, the big thing that I saw, like if I was just going to take some like 1,000-foot view, like overview of my big takeaways. So there were specific like hardware things that I was looking for and found, which was amazing when it comes to cabinetry. And we'll talk about that later. But like just in general, from visual trends, I mean, the white oak wood is everywhere, which I wasn't surprised by that. I was anticipating it, seeing it everywhere. So it's like that white. Um, it's white oak specifically, and then people are doing a variety of different finishes to it, from a simple like just natural finish on a white oak, to a bleached look, to a like whitewashed look, just a couple of different very light finishes on white oak, and that was everywhere,
Mm.
from the vanity manufacturers to the cabinet manufacturers. It was everywhere. Everybody had at least one thing in their booth that was that finish.
So let me ask this question. This is a deep question, but a lot of homes built in like the 40s and the 60s used red oak on their flooring.
Hmm.
And I'm just wondering if sometimes is white oak a more affordable wood to use on a regular basis. I just wonder if there's a tie to the economy because I mean, that's just,
So,
you know,
so what's interesting is it's the opposite. So
mm,
red oak is actually more affordable than white oak. There's also a hardness factor when you're talking about woods. And so red oak is a softer wood than white oak, which is also very interesting. So when you're choosing woods for your floor, your hardwood floor guy might try to sell you on red oak because it is a more affordable option, but white oak is going to wear better.
gotcha. Okay.
And
Figured
to be
that's,
honest, I mean, just to, well, this, like my personal feedback on red oak, I have red oak throughout my house and it is not destroyed, but we have been hard on it.
yes, same here. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So
cool.
that is something I came to learn after being in the industry. I didn't know that. I just wanted something that was going to be beautiful and was going to wear decent. I had no idea that we were going to be so rough on it.
Yeah, I think that's just a common expectation with hardwoods now these days too. Everybody's harder on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so white oak is a higher end wood compared to red oak. Um, and the coloration, you have I don't want to say pure is not the word, but you have a clearer um coloration with it, meaning it doesn't have like a rich variety of colors like red oak does. Like red oak, you're going to get some blondes and you're going to get some darker pieces with, striations and color variation. White oak
Yeah.
is a little bit more uniform. Um,
Cool.
and so another popular thing, just in general, is like a quarter sawn white oak or a rift cut white oak, which is the way that you cut it is the way that you kind of control the grain a little bit.
Hmm.
And so those are two other big things that go along with that trend.
Now, I did see you say you still feel like that trend of white oak is going to be quick lived and quick death. Do you still stand by that? Like you think it's going to be trendy for a period of time and in design and in homes that may be five years or less? Or do you think it's going to be quicker than that? Or do you think it's like
Well,
it's going to come in hot and leave hot?
so anything that like overpowers the market like that, like just completely takes over and everybody's got to have it, I feel like that is a surefire way for it to just die.
Mm,
Um, So I still stand behind that. We'll see how long it actually lives on because I feel sure it's going to be like the modern farmhouse white kitchen, or the black windows. Like I think it's going to live on for a while. I think the bigger takeaway from that is bringing stained wood or just natural wood back into the kitchen and the
hmm.
bathroom. So like not going straight to a painted cabinet. There are so many benefits to a stained cabinet beyond the aesthetics that would make you want it to be stained versus painted in the kitchen or a bath. And the
Oh,
biggest one is just that a painted cabinet, when it gets wet, and this is especially true for shaker because there are so many flat places for water to sit. Once water sits on that painted finish, that paint's going to bubble up and come off, period. And so painted cabinets will show wear faster than a stained cabinet. And so your stained cabinet's going to look better longer, basically.
yeah. That's a
Um,
great point. Cabinetry is going to be more wood and stained versus painted, which has been like the thing for a long time.
Right. And I mean, it all just kind of ebbs and flows, you know. I mean, cabinets for the longest time were stained. And I mean, we just redid a bathroom where the client had a stained vanity, but the construction just, I mean, at the time it was well constructed, but now cabinet construction has come such a long way. And you can design cabinetry to be so much more functional, have more functional space. People
Hmm.
have gotten way more creative with it. And so we basically redesigned her vanity space to include like a linen, and it was taking up almost the exact same
Square
footprint.
foot.
But because of the way that we can design things and how we can use more space or have more usable space in that linear footage, we added a linen, and then they had a shared bank of drawers between the vanities, and we stained it. It's a stain, and it's almost identical to what it was.
Wow.
Isn't that funny? Like it just ended up. I don't think that was intentional. She didn't say no. I want it to look just like my old one. No, she didn't say that. But ended up like her selections. It's very similar.
Led there.
Hmm.
We know what we like. I think a lot of times when people know what they like, they really stick with that forever or like for a long time, right? Like even let's go to my vehicle. I had a Jeep and I sold it, and guess what else I bought? Another Jeep. So, and guess what else I'll buy after that? Probably another Jeep. I think people just tend to naturally gravitate towards what they know they like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and so, I mean, I have painted cabinets everywhere in my house. You know, I do have a lot of natural wood, other elements. And so I think I think that makes me feel good as far as like, do I want to be on trend? I mean, that's not really ever my goal. I just want it to look fresh and up to date. So I feel I'm not concerned. It's not like I think, oh my gosh, I gotta have a stained vanity. You know, that's
Yeah.
not what I think. I just think for new kitchens and anything, any kind of remodeling going forward, stained is gonna be, you know, right up there in terms of, you know, popularity and option with a painted cabinet. So
Yeah.
that's my big takeaway from it. And I'm always going to vote for anything walnut um, over the oak. However, I am designing a kitchen right now where I am pushing for that oak because it's going to look beautiful. It's going to be like a light, warm wood in this particular kitchen, and I think it goes with the look that they want. And so I'm not saying I won't. Of course, I'm not. I'm not saying that I will never use that finish. I just think that at some point it will date itself.
Right. Right. Well, what else? What else were you like, yep, I feel like this is something everyone should know about and is amazing.
So let's see. I did go and visit like a lot of the vendors that we currently use, just because I love them and they are good. I mean, black is still in. Black faucets and finishes are still very much so in. But again, bringing in more wood tones was everywhere. Um, I saw some new interesting products from Westlake, which they make. Um, it's actually like a big conglomerate of brands. They have everything from roofing to windows
Mm.
to like masonry materials, and they have some new bricks that have come out that are beautiful. They
Mm.
are like the 1950s super linear brick veneer that was like the mid-century modern brick,
Hmm.
because it's long and skinny.
Yeah, it's
Um,
tighter. It's like a
yeah, yeah, and so that is actually the manufacturer that's making that is actually Cultured Stone, which is interesting because Cultured Stone is, you know, they make Cultured Stone products, but they're making
yeah,
this brick, and it was gorgeous. Um, and so of course they had that in a straight stack, which was, you know, I love to see that. Um, I did see a lot of like detailing on cabinets. So, you know, primarily like the simple shaker was like the go-to for the longest time.
Hmm.
And so for the past year and a half, I've been trying to steer people away from a shaker door. Still doing a recess panel door, but not a like a shaker. So having some sort of like interior profile at minimum. But keeping like a square edge on the cabinet door, but doing something different on that recess panel, not just like a simple shaker.
Interesting.
Um, and so that I saw a lot more of that, a lot of different door styles. One thing that is kind of making a little bit of a something to kind of worth paying attention to is called the micro shaker. So it's basically like 3/4 of an inch. The style and rails are like 3/4 of an inch instead of the regular like 2 1/4 on
Yeah.
the door. And so that's a interesting, like more contemporary look that I saw. I didn't see it a ton, but the cabinet manufacturers I work with, they came out with one recently. And so it's just starting to kind of catch my eye. But I saw that a couple of times, that micro shaker um, coming out. And then, yeah, just doing something different on the door style. So I saw a lot of just in general different door styles, not a ton of like plain shaker. Also saw a lot of like detail, like fluting. That's still very big. There were so many. This one's going to come and go just like the white oak, but the slat wall, you know what I'm talking about, like the wood slats that have like the black background. It's all
Yep.
over the DIY. It's all over Pinterest. It's everybody's doing it right now as like a way to bring interest into your space. And so there were so many vendors that had like the click and lock systems for those slat walls. So
Huh.
again, something that takes over like that, I'm just very wary.
Yeah.
It definitely has its applications, and I'm not saying that I won't ever use it in a design. It's just that just be careful with stuff like that because if it's too trendy, it's going to age itself quickly. Now, I did see one vendor that was like kind of off the beaten path that had something interesting, and of course, it brought me back to more like mid-century and contemporary design. But they had taken the slat wall concept, and instead of doing those skinny vertical slats, they had basically created like a grid. So it almost looked like tile, like a
Hmm.
tiny like 2 by 2 tile, but it was wood and it was in like click and lock. And so I thought that was kind of like a cool take on it. That was pretty interesting. I only saw one vendor with that. But it did catch my eye because I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. You know, that's a way to
Yeah.
like incorporate your slat wall, but be different. So
Yeah.
that was cool. Color in general is making a huge comeback. Because, for the longest time it was black and white or just white. So much white everywhere, both on like countertops, cabinets, surfaces, white. And I love white. White is all over my house. But like there were colorful appliances. There were across manufacturers. I mean, I saw one from brand is True, which I think is in with GE to a certain extent. But they had a Barbie pink dual column, like huge, massive refrigerator.
I feel
Well,
like Barbie
actually,
and HGTV's take on Barbie Dream House has definitely helped color, like bright color, make a comeback.
yeah. I mean, it was that I definitely had to stop and take a picture of the pink refrigerator because it's
Yeah.
actually I thought it was 2 columns. It's 4 columns. It was 4 columns, like two like plain front refrigerators, and then two wine refrigerators on either
Wow.
side. It was just massive. And it was like at the front of their booth. And of course, I'm like walking by because I'm not going to stop at most of them. I'm not going to stop. But that one made me stop. I was like, oh, got to take a picture of this. They also had like an entire setup that was like smoke blue, which was very pretty, like smoke blue color. They had one that was like champagne. I'm going to call it champagne, but like a champagne
Yeah.
finish, which was, I mean, it's pretty. It's just probably not anything I'll ever use in my market
Well,
or,
it's so funny because I feel like it's like the 70s coming back. I think it's the 70s. Correct me if I'm wrong. But remember when you go into a house and the toilet would be like green or yellow, or the
Oh
bathtub
yeah.
would be yellow or blue, powder blue. And um, it's just like a moment, I feel like, that's coming back from that.
Well, and yeah, and so what's funny is Kohler, plumbing fixtures, Kohler for the last, I know they did it last year. I don't know if it started the year before because I didn't go to the show, but Kohler every year is bringing back like a retro color. Last year they had an entire display dedicated to like Easter egg color toilets and bathtubs. So they were Easter egg colors. We're talking like lavender,
Hmm.
light pink, light yellow. But this year their color was green. And so like you're talking about the avocado green, like because my parents have that. They have that set still.
Yeah.
I mean, except for the toilet. I think the toilet finally gave up on it and the toilet's gone, but the bathtub is still there.
Yeah.
Um, and is avocado green. So there were three shades of green at the Kohler booth. There was like this deep, it's not Kelly green. It had too much blue in it to be like Kelly, but it was like a dark teal, basically. So it was like dark teal, lime green, and like pistachio.
Hmm. I feel like you did an Instagram story for that, right?
I
I
did. I
think
put that on
you'll
my
like
story.
you have to repost it once this goes live so that people know again.
Well, it's been on my
Um,
list to kind of just do some like major just highlight reels across
yeah.
for everything that I saw. And Kohler has a major partnership with Studio McGee. That announcement came out earlier this year. So they have an entire line of vanities. Um, and they did a kitchen together at the show. So of course that like signature rift cut white oak was there. Um, and, and it is absolutely beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful. And so I think there are ways to do that wood and make it timeless because this kitchen was gorgeous. Um, but also so is everything that Studio McGee does.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if there were a couple things you would want to share with everybody from your trip, what would they be?
Um, well, let's just say, I mean, so a lot, I did see another trend that I think is worth mentioning, which was kind of maybe surprising, but maybe not. I don't know. I was kind of, no, I was surprised. Is form over or function over form a little bit. And so, of course, we want things to look beautiful, but we also want them to function well. Well, kitchen sinks seem to be having a revival of sorts when it comes to design. So, they're across all brands, everybody had a workstation sink.
Mm, I loved that. I loved your stories on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so everybody had one. And so what's funny, I even texted the client because her husband is big on he's a big he cooks a lot, and they have been kind of like the first people to really substantiate the idea of induction cooktops for me too. They were
Yeah.
adamant about having an induction cooktop, which is probably a whole other episode, but they also he was really into the sinks because we were just going to do a cast iron sink. And then he was like, no, I want it to have accessories. Like, I
Hmm.
want it to be able to have a couple functions. And so the way that those work, like they are undermounted, but they have this little ledge. They have like a little lip on them in the back to where it allows you to basically drape things and like stack things in it. And
Yeah.
so that lip goes all the way around,
I
usually,
think what's
depending on.
interesting and helpful to our listeners is that, of course, everybody has caught on to this coming out, but like you can go and buy some of these accessories that will still work with your current sink setup. I think you just have to know
Oh
what your
yeah.
sink is. So, like for me, when you were showing me that, I was like, yep, I need to go and get me one of those cutting things that are on there because I'm constantly cutting and I would much rather do it over my sink, over my
Yeah.
disposal, all that stuff. But I love that. I love a working sink. I've wanted one. I've wanted to make mine like that for years, and now I'm just like, I need to go do it because now I've seen it in action, gives me a better idea of what I want accessory wise.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so
And so you can kind of like retrofit your existing sink, especially if it's undermounted.
yep.
It's just the big thing is if you've got like mine's a farmhouse, I wouldn't be able to 100% like put things on it because I don't have a back lip for anything to sit on and be
Yeah.
level with my front lip. And so that's kind of the thing. So these sinks, they have a built-in ledge with them. And so then of course each sink has its own accessories that you can pick from, whether that's going to be like a cutting board, like you were saying, a drying rack, different little cups that will hold things.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so that was everywhere. And see, Studio Dearborn, that's another big like industry giant. She kind of went viral a while back on Pinterest for her innovative cabinet customizations. Like that's kind of her calling card, is to integrate like very interesting storage solutions in your kitchen
Mm.
beyond like just the regular pull-out drawer.
Or like a lazy
So
Susan, but
right, so
more.
it like yes, so that she's the one who's kind of made those. I mean, one of her. I mean, she's just big about functional storage. Like make
Hmm.
it beautiful, but behind that cabinet door is going to be like powerhouse storage that is so functional for every day. Anyway, they have like partnered with a brand and made a sink, and it's like extra wide.
Mm.
Um, and it basically has a recessed area. It basically recesses your drying rack. And so that came out like a couple years ago, I think. And so, or that brand partnership. And so they have their own like their own sink like that major like workhorse workstation. But a lot of these brands that I saw, that's something that's definitely doable in like a regular kitchen. Like not everybody has 4 feet to put in a sink,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So these brands were coming out with a regular 36-inch workstation sink. And so
Yeah. That's
that
cool.
was something that's definitely like you could, if you have an undermount sink right now in your kitchen, that's an easy switch out. Like it's
Hmm.
going to be a pain in the butt to get that off your countertop because that silicone is no joke. But like doing a switch out on a kitchen sink is kind of a minor upgrade.
I
And so
think
if
that's a
you
good thing
really,
to emphasize. Yeah. I would have never thought that. I'd been like, man, I really don't want to replace my whole sink. But
yeah,
you're
who
saying
wants to
it's
do that?
easier than you think.
Well, it's not like replacing the entire countertop. And I mean, yes, you got to have a plumber or you have to have some plumbing skills. Yes, that means that somebody's got to come and do it. But in terms of upgrades, like if you want, if that's something you want, that is a very easy thing to do.
Yeah. That's a great point. I would have never thought that. So if you don't mind, with that being said, let me recap a couple things.
Yeah.
White oak is happening. It's having its moment. It may be a trend, it may not if done right. Um, Colored appliances are having a moment too.
Hmm.
Function over form and sinks are a great place to like up level your living style without too much of a job or too much work. You could either have a new sink put in or you can buy the accessories yourself if you have the right sink.
Right.
Did I miss anything?
No, nope, I don't think so. Yeah, color is a big one, so don't be afraid of it. If you like color, let it come into your house. Function has is also making a comeback, so we're not just like trying to choose aesthetic things. We need them to function too. Like
Yeah.
we've gotten past the I want it to look pretty, but I actually need to live here. So let's make it functional. Um, I did see an amazing cabinet manufacturer that I've never seen before, and it was absolutely stunning with walnut everywhere. I didn't really see that. And what's funny, I'm just looking back through my pictures. And so what's even funny, Nature Cast, that is an outdoor cabinet manufacturer, and even they had the white oak look. Like they make
Mm.
like basically like a resin cabinet that's meant for outdoors. Even they had the white oak color. Um, but yeah, I mean, color for sure. Even, I mean, Smeg, cute Smeg. You know, they have the retro. they did a partnership. They had multiple partnerships on their floor, but they had one with Dolce and Gabbana with the blue and white.
Ooh,
So I've seen that blue and white um, combo be very, very popular. Like it's having a comeback as
yeah,
well. Like kind of, uh, this is going to sound so tacky when I say this, but I like old money, that old money look, that like chinoiserie, like blue and
yeah,
white
like a
tchotchke,
Charleston style.
Charleston. Yeah,
Um,
very
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
But yeah, and then just cabinetry details, millwork details, letting that craftsmanship have a moment to shine. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Other innovative solutions to things like there was a lot of cabinet hardware that I looked at um, that would be very interesting to include in designs as far as like creating like pocket doors for cabinets. Cabinet doors that like they I saw one that where the entire kitchen was enclosed. Like this is not functional for your average person, but the entire kitchen was enclosed indoors, and then you pressed on the doors and they popped out, and then they recessed back into pockets. That was
yeah, that'd be
cool.
crazy. I wish I had a kitchen big enough for something like that, but
Yeah, but no, I mean this year's show was the biggest in many many years. Um, according to some of the stats I read, it's the biggest since 2009. There were 2,400 exhibits and over 1 million square feet to cover in
what?
terms of like size. There were almost 120,000 attendees at the show. Um, so, I mean, it was a
Wow.
very large trade show.
Yeah,
Both KBIS and IBS said that they grew in terms of attendance in general, but also like the number of attendees. So that was really interesting. But it's also just a really good place for like they have education sessions, which I opted not to do. Um, but my boss did get the education package, so I can go back and watch all those sessions if I wanted to. It's a great place to network, just talk to people and see what they're doing. And then the big kind of like cherry on top for me, because I considered not even going this year, was the software that I use, Chief Architect, had a training class out there. And so after the show ended Friday and Saturday, I went to that. And above all the other like wonderful things I saw, that was probably really the most valuable.
yeah, yeah. Especially when you can bring it back and use it for yourself. I'm sure it makes a little bit more of a bigger impact.
Well, and it was a little bit more intimate setting. That
Mm,
show is absolutely wild. People are hustling, bustling. Then by the third day, everybody's dead. And you're like, oh my God, I just have to see this last under. So that training class was a little bit more intimate. You could have some really nice personal conversations with people and hear what you were talking about instead of being so overwhelmed by the show.
yeah. Well, great. Well, Salem, thank you for giving us that highlight reel of the Vegas show. We'll definitely have this up and hopefully you can share more or reshare some of your stories that are based on this, and we can add in some of your favorite vendors or providers for the things that are coming in hot this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was fun. It's good to do a recap because then it forces me to think about it again too.
Yeah, yeah. Great. All right, guys. Well, until next time,
Until next time, we'll see you later.
see ya.
We hope today's episode gave you some inspiration and something new to try. Until next time, friends, you've got this.